Well, this is one of the last days it is the last day of November, and we just had a cold snap, but there's still flowers outside. But the purpose of this short video is to come into the studio here and to kind of acquaint everybody with what's going on in the last couple months. It's a culmination of 3 years working with the iPhone, and I'm just going to give you this is set up so our friend Evelyn, when she comes by, she barely gets here, she's always off to distant parts of the world. So, anyway, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of showing how I've set up here in the studio, which is, of course, my working space. Now it's an exhibition space, too. It's everything. And I'm going to have to do some of these individually, but just so you get the idea of this new work, which ranges in the process, the polymedia photography, or polyformative, which is another term I can use, which ends up doing things that look like engravings, which is taking the painted photographs and actually then translating them on the computer to black and white and then working on that, enhancing the color by the computer and then working on that with generally ink, working with spray, metallic silver spray, which in these two, these are going out to the photography museum downtown, the ones that have frames on them. So you can see we put some in for the black and white show, and that's what really kind of incited this whole thing. And you can see here, these are the ones that are going to the photography museum. And, there's really kind of, it's very exciting because you can go, as I say, from the look of an engraving. And here, this is kind of a fun thing to show you here. This is a lighter exposure using the editing Microsoft, software. Or you can go darker, and here you have much more depth. If I put these two together, let's see if I can do it. Here, it's good. Getting a little bit of light. But you see how the lighter, call it exposure in quotes, flattens it, whereas as I go darker, you have greater depth. Well, it's really interesting. And this is a sideways shot of Diana. I love that. Here's one that I did yesterday. I finished. This took a long time. I'm trying to do this so you don't get so much glare. But this is very heavily overpainted, but it was started in color. It was actually reproduced, printed in color. And then I used quite a bit of paint. It took quite a bit of time. Over here we have on the top autumnal Watteau, and the colors are very hard to capture because they're brilliant autumn colors inspired by, fall up when Philip and I went up to Maine. And when did we go? We went in the end of October. Yeah, we came back on Halloween. So anyway, and here you see some of that silver. If I actually move this around, you can see if I get the light to shine on the silver. It's really kind of exciting. And then on the table here, I'm just going to hold some up. This is the rabbit, of course. Very heavy paint over the color print. And then this one also, same thing. This is Summer Harbor, where I did this little setup off of Gray Road, which is one of my favorite places. Cadillac Mountain is over on the right there in the distance. And you see that each one of these becomes an individual creation. So here's from the photograph of the Gasparilla ship down at our neighbors. And this I worked and worked and worked on. Must have worked on this for about 3 or 4 days to get the color balance to come out right. I didn't know it was going to be so complicated because it was a good composition. Here is one that I didn't even bother doing anything with. I just had this printed in color. It's one I painted. We took it from the file, that I shot. All iPhone stuff, yeah. And there you go. That's the dilettante, making an appearance in the garden under the moonlight. And this is one of the shots through the prism. This is, I call this double Merton or double bunny, whatever. And each one of these has to have its own title. The variety here is just so incredible because you can do all this. And if I stick to kind of a black and white or a more limited palette, this is one, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. That was very quickly done. And it's the dark passage of Marie, into a heavenly situation. And this is keeping it very kind of toward the cool end of the spectrum, leaving a lot of the almost that engraving look in this one. Also, here we have the ship in the garden. And I just love the way the black and white has that engraving-like character. It's really fun to work with, and I go in with ink lines, and you kind of see there how I did it, because I'm sort of wobbly anyway. So I'm not a straight edge person, everybody knows that. I can do it, but I hate it. Literally, that's one of the things I do hate. Sorry, I mean to do, not to look at. But here is, this is you can see up in this corner that I had painted that in color, but when it translated to black and white, I kind of like the way you get some of that quality. And what this allows me to do is, now here's a shot that hasn't been altered at all. Okay, this was when it was raining in the garden, and there were just a few minutes where I got this effect. I love this. And, I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. I don't know. And here's one with a rabbit, Merton. And I think it got a little overpainted, maybe, a little complicated. But that was in, thinking about the black and white show. And those have already been sent out, so I can't show these today. One of my favorite was this one, which is the ship coming safely home to harbor, kind of a vision of Frenchman Bay and Acadia in the garden. But that one, oh my gosh, this took like 3 days. It kept evolving and evolving, and just like the blues, I had to tie those in. I tied them together. They were kind of like giotto-like colors from the frescoes. Those wonderful colors from the Renaissance. But then it didn't stay that way. It had to keep going. And it kept going. And there we have it. Well, that's a little introduction. And, I'll follow this up later with some more, edited video. Okay. Thank you for watching.